a single definition of who they are supposed to be. Something unusual happens when a Sigma male walks into the picture. He does not declare himself. He does not announce his talents. He does not demand to be seen. And yet, he is noticed, not because he tries to stand out, but because he moves differently from everyone else. While most men feel pressured to specialize, to narrow down their abilities, the Sigma male quietly becomes good, sometimes exceptionally good, at many things. He never sets out to be impressive. He simply follows curiosity, discipline, and internal standards that rarely match what society expects of him. If you observe him long enough, you'll notice a pattern. He is the kind of man who learns skills without fanfare, who adapts quickly to new environments, and who understands social dynamics without needing to dominate them. He is the man who can hold a meaningful conversation, fix a practical problem, build something from scratch, read people accurately, and navigate life with an unusual blend of logic and intuition. Not because he is trying to be superior, but because he values competence, quiet, private mastery that strengthens his independence. In many ways, the Sigma male resembles an old-world craftsman, methodical, observant, and patient. He treats life as an ongoing apprenticeship. Every situation becomes a classroom. Every challenge becomes a lesson, and every silence becomes an opportunity to understand deeper truths about himself and the world around him. While others rush through life chasing status, he slows down to sharpen his skills. While others compete loudly, he improves quietly. And while others chase recognition, he builds competence that requires no audience. This is why people often underestimate him at first. They see only fragments of who he is, unaware that beneath the calm exterior lies a remarkably wide range of abilities: emotional, intellectual, practical, and strategic. His strength is not in specializing, but in expanding, exploring, learning, and integrating. He is never just one thing. He is a mosaic of strengths, crafted over years of self-directed growth. And so today we explore why the Sigma male becomes a jack of all trades, not by accident, not by ambition, but as the natural rhythm of his personality, a rhythm built on independence, curiosity, and a deep desire to master life entirely on his own terms. Point one, the Sigma learns by observation, not competition. The first and perhaps most defining characteristic of the Sigma male is his observational nature. While many men learn through competition, rivalry, and external motivation, the Sigma learns through careful, quiet watching. He studies patterns, human behavior, practical processes, emotional cues, and social dynamics, without needing to insert himself into the environment. This creates a kind of layered learning that accumulates slowly but deeply over time. Instead of rushing to prove himself, he allows information to settle into his mind through repeated exposure. He picks up skills by simply being present, being attentive, and being quietly analytical. This leads to a wide range of subtle competencies. He understands people without needing long conversations. He grasps systems without needing detailed tutorials. And he learns strategies without needing direct instruction. Over time, he becomes someone who absorbs knowledge the way others breathe, naturally, without strain, without the need for recognition. Psychologically, this form of learning is linked to high observational intelligence and adaptive cognition. People who learn this way develop flexible mental models, allowing them to transfer what they learn from one area of life to another with ease. This quiet mental adaptability becomes one of the Sigma male's great strengths. He's not just learning facts, he's learning how things work, how people operate, and how environments behave. Because of this, he moves through the world with a sense of internal clarity that does not rely on external validation. He does not need to display dominance or engage in loud competition. His pursuit is not dominance, but mastery. His motivation is not applause, but understanding. He knows that the most powerful strategies are not always spoken, and the deepest knowledge is gathered in silence. The Sigma male studies without seeking approval, and he applies what he learns only when it serves a genuine purpose. Over years and decades, this builds a man who understands far more than he ever verbalizes. His silence becomes a reservoir of insight. His calm presence becomes a tool for decoding reality. He becomes the kind of man who sees what others miss, interprets what others overlook, and learns what others ignore. And because he gathers knowledge without needing to compete, he develops a wide array of skills that appear almost effortless to those who watch him. Yet they are the product of a lifetime of quiet, deliberate observation. Point 2, his independence forces him to become self-sufficient. The Sigma male's lifestyle is built on independence, not as an act of rebellion, but as a natural orientation. He does not rely heavily on others, not because he rejects connection, but because his default mindset is simple. If I can learn this myself, I will. This quiet inner philosophy becomes the foundation of a life shaped by self-education, self-mastery, and self-guided growth. Over time, this internal posture towards self-sufficiency creates a broad and diverse set of abilities that many people never develop. When something breaks, he learns to fix it. When a problem appears, he studies it until he understands it. When emotional challenges surface, he works through them privately before seeking outside assistance. This pattern of self-directed responsibility strengthens his emotional resilience, sharpens his problem-solving intelligence, deepens his critical thinking, and expands his practical life skills, skills that others often overlook because they have always had someone else to rely on. A man who depends on others becomes specialized. A man who depends on himself becomes versatile. This is the quiet truth behind the Sigma's multidimensional nature. He is not shaped by society's framework of narrow expertise. He is shaped by necessity, curiosity, and an inner drive to stand firmly on his own 2 feet. He does not aspire to excel in just one domain. He seeks to become capable enough to navigate the world on his own terms. Decades of living this way sculpt a strong, multi-skilled individual who can move through life without excessive guidance or reassurance. He understands finances, relationships, boundaries, craftsmanship, emotional regulation, and practical survival. Not because he formally studied these fields, but because independence required him to know enough about each to function with confidence. This is why many Sigma males appear naturally competent. They are not loud about their abilities and they never chase validation. But when life demands action, they respond with calm capability. Their independence becomes a lifelong training ground that no external institution could replicate, forging a man who is adaptable, grounded, and profoundly self-reliant. Point 3, his curiosity is not selective, it is universal. Curiosity is one of the most powerful drivers of human development, and the Sigma male possesses a unique, inward-facing form of it. While most people limit their interests to what is socially rewarding or externally validated, the Sigma is drawn to subjects purely because they fascinate him on a personal, almost private level. He might dive into philosophy, psychology, fitness, technology, craftsmanship, economics, art, or human behavior, not for praise, not for status, but for the quiet satisfaction of expanding his inner world. This broad, self-directed interest pattern creates a multidimensional skill set that grows with him over time. His curiosity does not arrive with urgency, nor does it demand rapid results. It unfolds slowly, gently, like a steady flame that never extinguishes. He learns without rush, explores without pressure, and builds knowledge without imposing deadlines on himself. This slow, burning approach allows his mind to absorb information deeply rather than superficially. Because he does not chase external approval, his learning remains pure, driven by genuine interest rather than comparison or competition. And this open, relaxed curiosity leads him to connect ideas across domains in ways others rarely do. He might see parallels between emotional intelligence and strategic thinking, or understand how physical discipline influences mental clarity. He may notice how economics mirrors human behavior, or how artistic expression reveals psychological patterns. These subtle yet powerful connections deepen his versatility, enabling him to approach life from multiple angles with creativity and insight. Over time, because he explores widely and fearlessly, his mind becomes a quiet library, filled with frameworks, models, stories, insights, and practical tools gathered from many different fields. He rarely showcases this knowledge openly, and he never uses it to appear superior. Yet, when a moment arises that requires clarity, perspective, or a solution that others cannot see, the depth of his understanding becomes unmistakable. His curiosity becomes his silent advantage, shaping him into a profoundly capable man whose versatility is born not from ambition, but from genuine fascination with life itself. Point 4. He thrives in solitude, where skill development flourishes. For the Sigma male, solitude is not a retreat, it is a workshop. While many people experience loneliness when alone, he experiences clarity. The absence of noise, expectation, and social performance allows him to focus deeply on personal development. In these quiet, uninterrupted spaces, his mind opens in ways that crowded environments never permit. In solitude, he reads, he works, he practices, he thinks, and he experiments. These quiet hours accumulate into competence. The world may not see what he does during these hours, but the results appear slowly and consistently throughout his life. What looks like natural talent to others is often just the product of countless moments spent in deliberate refinement. Deep work, uninterrupted, focused effort is one of the most powerful forms of skill acquisition. Sigma males unintentionally become masters of deep work because their personality naturally gravitates towards silent environments and self-directed activity. Where many people need accountability partners, noise, or external motivation, the Sigma thrives on internal drive. This is where he develops emotional intelligence, introspection, practical skills, creativity, and intellectual depth. His solitude becomes a personal classroom, a laboratory for growth, and a sanctuary where he can strengthen the mind without distraction. This is also where he forms strong personal philosophies and mental resilience. He does not simply react to life. He studies it, interprets it, and builds frameworks that guide him with stability and purpose. Because he engages with his inner world so consistently, He becomes a man who is not easily shaken by external chaos. Solitude sharpens him, shapes him, and strengthens him. And because he spends more time in this state than the average man, he accumulates more layers of self-development. Over time, this inner work becomes visible in the way he carries himself, in his calmness, his emotional balance, his strategic thinking, and his quiet but unmistakable confidence. While others chase validation, the Sigma invests in refinement. While others fear being alone, he transforms isolation into mastery. And it is this discipline, this lifelong inward commitment, that ultimately makes him stand apart. Point 5, he adapts quickly because he thinks independently. Adaptability is often misunderstood. Many believe it requires constant flexibility, but in truth, it requires independence, freedom from rigid groupthink. The Sigma male is not tied to collective expectations. He does not adjust himself to fit groups. He adjusts himself to fit reality. This distinction is subtle but powerful. While others bend themselves to match the shifting opinions of the crowd, the Sigma male anchors himself in inner clarity. This freedom from social conditioning allows him to think clearly in situations where others are clouded by emotion or conformity. When people panic, he observes. When people rush, he pauses. When people cling to the familiar, he is willing to explore the unknown. He can change strategies without hesitation, pivot without fear, and rethink his approach without waiting for approval. This mental autonomy becomes a stabilizing force, especially in moments of uncertainty. Instead of reacting impulsively, he recalibrates with intention. Instead of seeking validation, he seeks understanding. This independent thinking gives him an edge in unpredictable environments. He becomes a man who can handle crisis with calmness, transition with stability, and adapt without losing his identity. Where others may crumble under pressure, he restructures his approach. Where others become overwhelmed by change, he moves through it with deliberate steps. Over time, this adaptability becomes a skill in itself, a meta skill that enhances every other ability he possesses. It sharpens his decision-making, strengthens his emotional intelligence, and deepens his resilience. Adaptability requires broad competence. It requires awareness, flexibility, and emotional regulation. The Sigma male naturally cultivates these qualities, which allow him to navigate challenges with a level-headed composure that others often admire. His strength is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, grounded, and precise. He adapts not because he must, but because he understands that evolution is the true mark of mastery. Point 6, he values mastery over recognition. The final reason the Sigma becomes a jack of all trades is simple yet profound. He seeks mastery, not recognition. Most people learn skills to impress others, gain status, or receive validation. Their motivation is external, and because of this, their learning is shallow. They chase applause, they mirror trends, and they abandon anything that doesn't earn immediate praise. But the Sigma male moves in the opposite direction. He learns because he values competence. He likes knowing he can rely on himself, even when the world around him is unreliable. He likes understanding how things work, not to show off, but to create a quiet sense of inner order. He likes feeling capable, grounded, and internally aligned, as if each skill he collects strengthens the architecture of his character. This inward motivation leads him to develop skills deeply and privately. There is no audience, no scoreboard, and no desire for public reward. He measures his progress through personal satisfaction, usefulness, and internal harmony. markers that cannot be taken away by public opinion. He develops a kind of self-trust that is rare in a world obsessed with comparison. The Sigma knows that mastery is its own reward. It sharpens him, it steadies him, it prepares him. And over time, this commitment to mastery, not for admiration, but for self-respect, creates a man with profound versatility. He becomes strong where others are fragile, because he does not depend on external reinforcement to keep moving. He becomes prepared where others are overwhelmed, because quiet practice has already carved pathways for competence. He becomes skilled where others are narrow, because he learns widely, patiently, and without ego. His abilities become layered, integrated, and resilient, not because he works harder, but because he works differently. His learning is not frantic, it is steady, it is not performative, it is personal. His life becomes a long, continuous cultivation of ability, a slow sharpening of the mind, a deepening of understanding, and a calm journey toward becoming a fully capable man. And in this way, the Sigma male becomes the true jack of all trades, not out of ambition, but out of alignment. Not out of pride, but out of purpose. And so, as we come to the end of this quiet reflection, remember this: the Sigma male's strength is not measured in noise, reputation, or the approval of the world. His depth is not a performance. His abilities are not crafted for display. They are the natural result of a man who has chosen to grow inwardly, patiently, and consistently without waiting for permission or applause. The world may never fully understand why he can do so many things well. It may never see the countless hours of solitude where clarity was shaped, the silent observations where wisdom was formed, or the internal challenges he overcame without saying a word. But he understands, and for a Sigma male, that is enough. If you see yourself anywhere in this journey, allow this truth to settle gently within you. You do not need to narrow who you are to fit into a box. You do not need to choose only one path. You are allowed to be layered. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to master your life quietly without performing for the world. Walk your path with intention. Build your skills with patience. Let your curiosity lead you. Let your independence strengthen you. And let your mastery be something you carry, not to impress others, but to deepen your sense of self-reliance and inner peace. Thank you for spending this time in reflection. If this message resonated with you, stay with us for more calm, grounded explorations into the mind, habits, and quiet power of the Sigma male. Until next time, walk gently, think deeply, and continue becoming the man only you can be. There is something quietly unusual about the Sigma male, something that most people sense long before they can explain it. When he walks into a room, he does not demand attention, yet people notice him. When he speaks, he rarely raises his voice, but his words tend to linger in the minds of others. And when he chooses silence, that silence is often louder than the noise around him. In a world that emphasizes visibility, constant social engagement, and predictable patterns of behavior, Sigma's presence unsettles people in a way they cannot quite articulate. He represents a different kind of masculinity, one that is less concerned with dominance and more aligned with self-possession, observation, and quiet, personal power. And while many admire this, some misunderstand it, others even fear it. The truth is simple: people judge what they cannot categorize, and the Sigma male by nature does not fit easily into categories. He does not try to lead, but he also cannot be led. He does not chase validation, but validation often finds him. He does not resist society, yet he remains deeply unaffected by it. This creates a subtle tension in the minds of normal people, those who operate within familiar social structures, relying on group validation, predictable interactions, and conventional measures of success. To them, the Sigma male is not just different, he is a disruption to the unspoken rules they unconsciously follow. They cannot place him, so they project onto him. They cannot read him, so they create assumptions. They cannot influence him, so they form their own interpretations of his independence. Some see him as mysterious. Others see him as intimidating. A few see him as aloof. And many quietly feel challenged by him without understanding why. But beneath those perceptions lies a deeper truth. The Sigma male is not intentionally provoking these reactions. He is simply living from a place of inner alignment, prioritizing authenticity, solitude, and clarity over external performance. The Sigma male moves through life with a calm internal compass, one that points not toward social approval but toward personal truth. He observes before he speaks, thinks before he acts, and disconnects before he reacts. His restraint is not weakness, it is mastery. And that mastery often exposes the noise, the insecurity, and the emotional reactivity that many rely on without realizing it. Today, we will explore 8 ways normal people tend to perceive Sigma males and why these perceptions arise. Not for the sake of judgment, but for understanding. Because once you see these patterns clearly, you begin to understand not only how the world sees you, but also why you walk your own quiet path with such deliberate calm. Let us begin. Point 1, they see him as mysterious even when he isn't trying to be. The Sigma male's mystery is not a performance, it is a byproduct of his inward focus. Most people reveal themselves quickly and repeatedly, wearing their emotions on their sleeves and narrating their thoughts aloud. The Sigma does the opposite. He thinks before speaking, and even then, reveals only what feels necessary. This moderation of expression forces others to sit with the unknown, and the unknown, by nature, invites speculation. People assume there must be something hidden behind the silence. They imagine complexity, depth, or secrecy. In reality, the Sigma is simply discerning. His silence is not strategic manipulation, it is psychological efficiency. Without realizing it, he forces others to confront their discomfort with ambiguity. Some admire his ability to say little, yet communicate much. Others find it unsettling because they cannot access him using the usual social keys: friendliness, small talk, emotional oversharing, or subtle probing. The Sigma responds only when something holds meaning, and meaning, to him, is rare. This creates a space around him that people label as mystery, even though he is simply not participating in unnecessary noise. The result is that normal people perceive him as enigmatic, unpredictable, or private, not because he hides, but because he refuses to dilute himself in the way society often expects. Point 2, they mistake his independence for arrogance. Many people interpret confidence through social comparison. Who leads, who follows, who seeks approval, and who gives it. The Sigma steps outside this system entirely. He does not seek praise, he does not compete for dominance, and he does not require a group identity for validation. To those who rely on these structures, his independence feels like a silent judgment. They assume he believes he is above them, when in truth he is simply uninterested in being measured by standards he did not choose. His self-sufficiency can be uncomfortable for people who define themselves through collective reinforcement. When someone cannot be easily influenced, guilt-tripped, or persuaded, it challenges others to confront their own dependence on external validation. This is where the misinterpretation begins. His neutrality is mistaken for arrogance. His boundaries are misread as superiority. His quiet focus is interpreted as dismissal. But the Sigma is not rejecting others. He is simply choosing himself. And the world is not used to men who do that without explanation or apology. Point 3. They feel intimidated by his calmness. Emotional neutrality is misunderstood by many. Most people live in reaction mode, responding quickly, visibly, and often impulsively to whatever arises. The Sigma does the opposite. When confronted with tension, he becomes quieter. When challenged, he becomes more controlled. When provoked, he pauses instead of retaliating. This composure can feel intimidating to those who are accustomed to emotional back-and-forth interactions. A calm man forces others to face their own emotional volatility. His steadiness highlights their instability. His patience exposes their impulsiveness. His groundedness reveals their lack of center. And because few people are comfortable with this mirror, they project their discomfort onto him. They describe him as cold, emotionless, or detached. But his calm is not detachment, it is mastery. It is the quiet discipline of a man who does not surrender control of his inner world, regardless of what is happening externally. Those who cannot regulate themselves often perceive this as a form of silent dominance. Point 4. They think he is socially detached. The Sigma male is selective about where he invests his energy, not because he is afraid of rejection or uninterested in people, but because he understands the quiet cost of scattering himself too widely. He is not motivated by the need for constant companionship, validation, or noise. Instead, he prioritizes meaningful conversation, genuine connection, and environments where authenticity is allowed to breathe. To those who socialize out of habit, boredom, or insecurity, his selectiveness appears like avoidance. They assume he does not like people. They assume he prefers isolation. They assume he is uninterested in connection. But the truth is much simpler. He values quality over quantity. Shallow interactions do not nourish him, so he does not pursue them. Solitude is not his escape. It is his recharge, the space where he regains clarity, strength, and direction. People who are uncomfortable being alone struggle to understand this. To them, solitude feels like emptiness. But to the Sigma, solitude feels like alignment, a return to his center. Point 5, they see him as a threat to social hierarchies. Social groups operate through subtle hierarchies: leaders, followers, influencers, validators, and observers. Most people unconsciously adapt to these frameworks, adjusting their behavior, tone, posture, and even their opinions to fit into the group's emotional rhythm. They trade small pieces of autonomy in exchange for belonging, approval, and predictability. But the Sigma does not. He moves independently, guided not by group expectations, but by his own internal compass. He speaks when he chooses to, contributes only when it feels meaningful, and refuses to participate in the endless, unspoken competition for status that drives most social dynamics. His presence disrupts the social script in ways others cannot fully explain. Someone who is not trying to climb the hierarchy cannot be controlled through the usual psychological mechanisms. Not by praise, not by criticism, not by group pressure, not by status rewards, and not by fear of exclusion. The tools that maintain social cohesion simply fail to work on him. And because these tools fail, people often experience a subtle sense of unease in his presence. They cannot predict him, and unpredictability, especially in a social environment, is often interpreted as a threat. Humans rely on predictable behavior to feel safe. We read cues, follow norms, and expect certain responses. But when someone neither submits nor dominates, when he does not chase validation yet does not rebel for attention, when he simply stands apart without explanation, he breaks the unspoken rules that keep the group structure intact. This deviation forces others to confront the instability of the very system they rely on. Without meaning to, the Sigma destabilizes hierarchies simply by refusing to engage with them. His neutrality becomes a form of quiet power. His independence exposes the fragility of social ranking, and his refusal to play the game reveals a truth most people avoid. That status is only real if you believe in it. The Sigma's presence reminds the group subtly, silently, continuously, that freedom exists outside the hierarchy, and that alone is enough to unsettle those who have built their identity within it. Point 6. They believe he has hidden motives. Because the Sigma does not overshare, people fill in the blanks with their imagination. They assume silence must be calculated. They assume privacy must indicate strategy. They assume independence must hide an agenda. But the Sigma's motives are often simple: peace, clarity, focus, and freedom. He is predictable in his consistency, not in his communication. Those who rely on verbal reassurance struggle with this. They want explanations, confirmations, and disclosures, things the Sigma offers only sparingly. This leads to the perception that he is withholding something. In truth, he is simply uninterested in narrating his internal world. The less he explains himself, the more others speculate. And speculation often sounds like suspicion. Most people are conditioned to read constant expression as honesty and openness. They assume transparency is the default. When someone deviates from this, they label it as mysterious or even threatening. The Sigma's quiet nature challenges their sense of social security. They cannot place him into a familiar category, so they create one from assumptions. His silence becomes a canvas where they paint their own insecurities. His privacy becomes a mirror reflecting their lack of boundaries. His independence becomes a reminder of freedoms they have not yet claimed. And so they assign complex motives to a man who is simply practicing presence. The Sigma moves through life with a deliberate emotional economy. He refuses to waste energy explaining what does not need explanation or defending choices that stand firmly on their own. He understands that words are often misused as substitutes for identity, and he avoids this trap by living authentically rather than verbalizing endlessly. Because of this, he easily becomes the subject of speculation. People whisper, guess, and interpret his behavior through the filter of their own biases. They confuse his quiet confidence for hidden schemes, his stillness for calculation, and his peace for emotional distance. Yet the truth remains unchanged. The Sigma is not hiding anything. He is simply prioritizing what truly matters. His silence is not secrecy, it is self-possession. His privacy is not manipulation, it is mastery. And the world will always misinterpret what it does not understand. Point 7, they perceive his standards as harsh. The Sigma male has standards rooted in self-respect. He does not tolerate manipulation, disrespect, or emotional chaos. He does not engage with people who drain his energy. He does not entertain situations that compromise his values. To people who lack boundaries, this feels harsh. They interpret his standards as judgment. They assume he is being difficult or demanding. In reality, he is simply protecting his mental and emotional space. His standards are not about others, they are about him. He knows what aligns with his life and what does not, and he acts accordingly without guilt. And this is the silent truth most people miss. The Sigma male's boundaries are not weapons. They are forms of self-preservation. When he distances himself, it is not arrogance, but clarity. Clarity about what nurtures his growth and what quietly destroys it. While others seek validation through constant connection, he sees peace through discernment. He has learned often through painful experience that giving everyone access to his inner world leads to confusion, exhaustion, and emotional imbalance. So he guards his energy with intention. He listens deeply to his intuition. He steps away from noise long before it becomes chaos. And because he moves with such internal certainty, people who are accustomed to overstepping feel confronted by his refusal to bend. They mistake his emotional independence for coldness, when in truth it is a mature form of responsibility. He refuses to become entangled in emotional games. He knows that anyone who tries to guilt-trip him, manipulate him, or take advantage of his kindness does not deserve a place in his life. And so he walks away, quietly, without explanation, without drama. This confuses those who rely on attention, conflict, or emotional dependency to feel significant. They do not understand someone who simply disengages instead of arguing. But the Sigma male does not seek to be understood. He seeks to remain aligned. His standards function like an inner compass, guiding him toward relationships, environments, and commitments that support his highest potential. And once he recognizes that something is lowering his vibration, he releases it without hesitation. Not out of cruelty, but out of profound self-respect. Point 8. They view his lifestyle as unusual but intriguing. The Sigma male's life does not follow the traditional script. He prioritizes freedom over conformity, passion over image, and authenticity over acceptance. This creates an unconventional lifestyle, minimalist, purposeful, and deeply aligned with his values. Some people find this odd, others find it inspiring. Most find it difficult to categorize. His choices challenge the assumptions people have about success, happiness, and masculinity. They cannot decide whether he is eccentric or wise, distant or grounded, detached or enlightened. In truth, he is simply living a life that resonates with him, not one that impresses others. And in a world shaped by imitation, a man who chooses authenticity will always appear both unusual and magnetic. The Sigma operates according to an internal compass that many people cannot read. He measures his life not by external applause, but by internal alignment. While others rush to keep up with trends, he takes quiet steps toward a purpose he does not need to broadcast. His identity is not built on performance, and because of that, it remains steady even when the world around him shifts. This steadiness, this refusal to be swayed by noise or comparison, is often misunderstood as aloofness. But the truth is simpler. He saves his energy for what truly matters. His detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the deliberate choice to protect his mental and emotional space from the demands of a society that rewards overstimulation and punishes introspection. What others call mystery is merely his unwillingness to dilute himself. And what they call confidence is simply the peace that comes from not needing validation. The Sigma male walks a path that many admire, but few are willing to take. It requires solitude, honesty, and the courage to disappoint people who expect you to be predictable. Yet this very path is what gives him his quiet power. In a world full of noise, he remains the still point. In a world obsessed with attention, he becomes the one who does not chase it, yet effortlessly commands it. As we close this reflection, remember something simple yet quietly powerful. People's perceptions of you are often just reflections of their own inner world. The Sigma path is not about proving yourself, convincing anyone, or reshaping how others see you. It is about walking with clarity, choosing stillness over noise, and living from a place that does not require applause to feel whole. If these insights have helped you understand your journey a little more deeply, consider joining us again. Here we explore the inner landscape of men who choose intention over chaos, depth over distraction, and authenticity over performance. Take a moment now, breathe, and return to your day with a quieter sense of assurance. Thank you for watching. Stay steady, stay grounded, and stay true to your path. Take a moment, breathe in, and allow your awareness to sink gently into that quiet inner room where deeper understanding takes shape. Most people imagine heartbreak as something loud, something dramatic, chaotic, or overflowing with visible emotion. But when a Sigma male experiences heartbreak, an entirely different process unfolds. There is no shouting, no frantic attempts to hold on, and no desperate display of loss. Instead, he retreats into a silence so deep and steady that those around him can sense a shift, even if they cannot explain it. A Sigma male has spent most of his life mastering solitude. He relies on his own reasoning, his own emotional grounding, and his own inner world. He does not love impulsively. He does not attach without intention. His heart is not easily accessed, and when he chooses to let someone in, it is a deliberate, meaningful choice. So when that rare trust is broken, the impact is not theatrical, but it is profound. What happens inside him is like a quiet earthquake beneath the surface. You cannot see it, but you can feel the rearrangement of everything built above it. This is why his heartbreak can seem unsettling to those who witness it. Not because he collapses, but because he transforms. He withdraws, not to hide, but to recalibrate. A Sigma male processes pain by analyzing it, understanding it, and stripping it down to its core truths. He studies the experience as if it were data, dispassionately, thoroughly, and with a long-term perspective. In this period of introspection, he begins to identify what no longer aligns with the man he is evolving into. He releases people, habits, and emotional patterns that once held meaning, but no longer serve his growth. His silence is not emptiness, it is restructuring. It is the lone wolf stepping deeper into the forest, not out of fear, but out of instinct, returning to the place where his strength is rebuilt. In that stillness, the Sigma male undergoes a subtle but powerful metamorphosis, one that determines who he becomes next, how he moves forward, and what new boundaries will define his life. And today, we're going to explore exactly what unfolds inside that silence. Let's begin. Point 1, he withdraws into deep, intentional solitude. When heartbreak touches a Sigma male, the very first instinct is not to react, but to retreat. This solitude is not isolation born of despair. It is a deliberate movement from the external world into the internal one. A Sigma male understands intuitively that human emotion is not something to project outward, but something to observe from a place of quiet detachment. Imagine a scientist entering a controlled environment to study an intricate phenomenon. That is the Sigma's mind during heartbreak. He steps back from social interactions not because he cannot face others, but because he no longer wishes to absorb unnecessary noise. He removes himself from group settings, reduces conversations, and allows his nervous system to settle into neutrality. This process can last days, weeks, sometimes months. Psychologically, this is known as emotional recalibration. The Sigma male refuses to drown in the collective emotional narratives society expects from men. Instead, he creates space, broad, silent space, where he can assess the situation without the distortion of impulse or the influence of external opinions. To others, his disappearance can feel cold, distant, or even alarming. But to the Sigma, this solitude is the foundation for clarity. He knows that emotional turbulence does not resolve itself through expression. It resolves itself through understanding, and understanding requires quiet. In this solitude, he reconnects with the parts of himself that may have softened or stretched to accommodate the relationship. A Sigma male is self-contained by nature. When he shares his life with someone, he naturally expands to make room for them. So when heartbreak comes, he contracts, not in a negative sense, but in the same way a muscle contracts to regain strength. This contraction is a return to internal equilibrium. Instead of seeking validation, comfort, or distraction, he begins evaluating the deeper lessons embedded in the experience. He notices patterns, traces emotional triggers, and reflects on the boundaries he may have allowed to blur. He does not blame himself, nor does he villainize the other person. He simply studies the truth as it is, without embellishment. And as days pass, something subtle but powerful happens. The Sigma male begins rebuilding. Quietly, without announcement, he strengthens the mental structures that define his independence. His focus sharpens, his goals regain priority, his emotional world reorganizes itself into calm order. To most people, this phase appears uneventful, but to the Sigma male, it is the essential reconstruction of his inner architecture. It is here, in the silent chamber of solitude, that he transforms heartbreak into wisdom and emerges even more self-possessed, steady, and untouchable than before. Point 2, he conducts a quiet, honest autopsy of the relationship. Once the Sigma male has returned to his internal world, a deeper and more intricate process begins to unfold, one that is almost invisible to the outside world, yet profoundly transformative within him. He analyzes the relationship not through the haze of emotion, but through the lens of quiet, deliberate reasoning. There is no vindictiveness in his reflection, no desire to assign fault or inflate ego. Instead, he enters the role of a detached observer, studying the timeline of the connection as though it were a psychological case file rather than a personal catastrophe. Modern psychology calls this cognitive processing, an intentional method of examining emotional events without allowing those events to shape or distort your identity. And while many people avoid this process because it can be uncomfortable, the Sigma male steps into it willingly. He begins to ask himself questions most individuals never dare to explore. What did I contribute to this dynamic? What patterns were present that I ignored? What truths were whispered to me that I chose not to hear? Which needs were expressed and which remained unspoken or unmet? He is not searching for blame, he is searching for truth. To a Sigma male, truth holds far more value than emotional comfort. He would rather face a difficult reality than cling to a soft illusion. This pursuit of clarity invites him into deeper territory. The process can be painful, not because it destroys him, but because it illuminates hidden pieces of himself that remain silent during the relationship. Old wounds that still remember their origin. Subconscious expectations shaped long before adulthood. Unspoken fears that influenced his behavior and assumptions he never realized he held. But unlike most men, the Sigma does not retreat into defensiveness. He does not push responsibility outward or rewrite the story to protect his pride. If he contributed to the downfall, he faces it with honesty and humility, without spiraling into self-criticism. If the other person contributed, he acknowledges it without bitterness, recognizing human imperfection without assigning moral superiority. It is within this unfiltered honesty that the Sigma male reaches a rare state, clarity, a clear, undistorted understanding of what truly happened, free from emotional distortion or ego preservation. And this clarity becomes the foundation upon which his transformation is built. He does not heal by avoidance. He does not heal by distraction. He heals by seeing reality as it is. And in that understanding, he begins to rise anew. Point 3, he upgrades himself instead of seeking validation or revenge. Once the Sigma male reaches clarity, a shift occurs, the emotional fog lifts, and a new disciplined energy begins to take shape. Many men try to win the breakup through performance, attention-seeking, or superficial achievements, but the Sigma male sees no value in proving himself to someone who is no longer part of his life. Instead, he quietly begins to improve. He might return to old routines that he had paused. He might start reading more, training harder, sleeping better, or refocusing on long-term goals that had been sidelined. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth, the profound development that occurs after emotional adversity. For the Sigma male, this is not a theory, but a lived experience. He does not run toward distraction, he gravitates toward evolution. His heartbreak becomes the raw material from which he forges a higher, more resilient version of himself. His inner reservoir of discipline deepens, his standards sharpen, his masculine core strengthens in ways that others cannot easily see, yet they can always feel. He does not view heartbreak as evidence of failure. Instead, he interprets it as proof that he was capable of deep emotional investment, and anything genuine, whether successful or not, always carries wisdom within it. In this phase of rebuilding, subtle but powerful changes begin to unfold. His silence becomes stronger, no longer heavy with emotion, but steady with intention. His presence becomes sharper, radiating a quiet confidence rooted in self-respect. His focus becomes more intense, directed toward goals that truly matter rather than temporary feelings. People may not know what he is doing behind the scenes, but they sense the transformation taking place. This is the moment when the Sigma male begins to ascend into a more refined version of himself, not for attention,